Our next speaker is Steve Myrick. He's a Raleigh area native who does offensive security for Avalara. He's also one of the people behind the EverSec CTF upstairs, so if you've played that or played it at a previous competition, give him a hand. He's going to talk about security champions.
Thank you so much. Hopefully that sounds okay. Great. Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about security champions. It is maybe not the first time you've heard of the idea. It's not something that I made up, and it's definitely something that's relatively standard, but we're going to talk about a little bit of some of my learned experience in growing a security champions program over the past year or so at Avalara. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, my name's Steve Myrick. That's my my pre-pandemic hair. I am an adversarial engineer over at Avalara. We are in Durham, so I've been working there for a little over 2 years now. I've been on Team EverSec since about 2016. We really enjoy getting to put on the CTFs for these conferences and others. So if you haven't got a chance to check it out, definitely do jump upstairs to the second floor. Or if you are online, we are hosting the CTF for the next bit of time. And then I am one of the few people that I meet around here that are actually from Raleigh, as I was born in Knightdale. So we are a rare breed nowadays. But let's go ahead and jump in with a kind of just a definition of what is a security champion. You know, we got to start at square one here. So here's a definition: is a member of a team that takes responsibility of acting as the primary advocate for security within the team and acting as a first line of defense for security issues within the team. Now, this doesn't mean that they are a member of security. If you have a security organization, this doesn't necessarily mean they're that. They could be a developer. They could be a QA person. They could be a project manager. But this person is the person that is responsible for taking the ideas and the objectives that security is trying to promote within your company, your organization, and really making that their mission as well and helping promote that. So a little bit of a force multiplication from the efforts that security has to the kind of front lines on each individual team. So maybe you understand this, you get the idea, but why would we have security champions? Why can't we just build out security a little bit more? We spend more money, we hire more pen testers, we hire more incident response people. Why is that not necessarily going to be the most effective way of us kind of promoting this program or running the security, I guess, in your organization? So the first point, AppSec professionals will always be outnumbered. You've probably experienced this. Security is typically one of the later additions to a company. Once if you have a product-based company and they're making something, security isn't always added until they have gone to market. They have proven themselves that the product is worth buying, and they have the budget for it, honestly. So I've heard even that it's on average about 100-to-1 ratio in AppSec professionals to developers. Security doesn't always have the tribal knowledge that the development and IT teams have. You've probably experienced this where the people who have been working on the products the longest, the people who have firsthand knowledge, will always inherently know more about the thing that they are building than you will as a security person coming in trying to, either interface with them or read documentation, get an understanding of the product, right? They will block security issues before they happen. So the more that we kind of take this idea that security is everybody's problem or everybody's responsibility, that they will start to shift left. I mean, you've heard the term 1,000 times, but shift the resolution of security issues before they make it into production. Hopefully, it's always going to be cheaper and more effective for you to stop a security vulnerability than having to put it in production, identify it with a pen test, then go back and remediate it. Ownership drives action. You know this. If something is not necessarily your responsibility, if something is not necessarily a formal thing that you are responsible for, it sometimes doesn't happen. People are focused on things that they are measured by, and things that they're responsible for. So if security is everybody's responsibility, then their ownership of security and secure software will drive action in making sure that they do it the right way. is generally low cost, high return on investment. You can run these programs for free if you'd like. It takes, obviously, political capital, but there is a high return on investment here. It not only saves headcount, you are reducing the amount of people that security requires in terms of the yearly budget, but also there is a cost to vulnerabilities. If they are exploited, it's a lot higher. But there is a cost for the remediation effort, the testing effort, all of this. And the creation of a meta security team. So maybe you've heard the idea before, but what is a meta security team? A meta security team is a team that is not rolling up through some sort of security organization officially, but they are responsible for security. So these are your partners. These are your partners in crime. I have a few quotes here that I like from a few different organizations relevant to security champions that I think would be kind of interesting to talk about. So security champions don't need to be security pros. They just need to act as the security conscience of the team. This is important. We don't necessarily need to take security members, inject them into dev teams. No, the important thing is that they just need a passion for it. They just need to feel like it is their responsibility. They need to be promoting security within their own small group. Active members of a team that may help make decisions about when to engage the security team. So if you've had problems like this before where you have, maybe you'll find out much later on after a remediation effort happens, or maybe an incident happens, they would say, oh, yeah, we resolved that, it's fine, no big deal. Well, if they don't know exactly who to contact, they don't know the procedures, they don't have standards for how they engage security, then you're going to be in a spot where maybe you'll miss things, maybe they will follow a incorrect procedure and could land us in relatively large trouble. Here's another one: is someone who serves as both a mentor and a cheerleader of sorts, engaging with and encouraging all employees to learn, adopt, and remain committed to the security protocols. I love this quote because it talks about two important things. One is learning and two is adopting. We are adapting. We always need to be focused on improving ourselves as security professionals, and developers always need to be focused on improving themselves as developers, which includes inherently security. Security is an important part of software. Always has been, but definitely is much more now in the current age. So really, what are some benefits of this program? We talked about why it's important. What are some of the benefits? What we receive in creating this type of program? One is kind of bridging the gap between dev and security for a more cohesive vision. Probably heard cohesive visions, buzzwords, right? But the important part here is that everybody is on the same page. We have no longer do we have this, silo of security and this silo of development where, security has their own goals, development has their own goals. We now have a singular cohesive vision, is everybody's on the same page. Promotes a sense of ownership within the dev teams. They are now, not only do they feel responsible for making sure that they deliver secure software, but they also can feel proud of the work that they've done. It transitions security from their responsibility to our responsibility. I'm sure you may have heard in an organization, Mel talked a lot about these relationships between developers and security, and how much conflict comes up from these separations, these silos between organizations. It really kind of promotes unity here. It allows you to dissipate information more easily. As much as everybody likes to assume that newsletters, big emails can be the perfect way to disseminate information, a single group of people who have an area to talk about their mission will always provide a better solution in dissipating information. You'll have one team member who is focused on a certain problem with Terraform and how security integrates with that, and their conversation, their questions maybe will help somebody else in their mission. You'll always know who to contact. If you are dealing, like if you're in an incident response type of role, this is incredibly important, because now you don't have to say, oh, is it, who owns this product? Who has this, should I talk to the manager? Is there like a tech lead that I can talk to? No, that that you have an established roster. These are the people who are responsible for security incidents in your products. You can improve knowledge sharing by providing a dedicated platform. We talked a bit about that briefly, but a single dedicated platform will become the spot for security discussion within your organization. And it's a little bit more distilled because this is not going to be every single person in the company talking in this platform. But they will have an area to discuss things in a safe manner, and they will always know exactly, if I have a security question, I will go here, and the security team will answer it for me. So maybe you've gone through a maturity model or an audit where they're measuring the effectiveness of your security organization. Many of them are maybe they're not requiring security champions, but maybe they are. BSIM says create or grow a satellite. That ties directly to security champions. There are other maturity models that I'm sure you're probably familiar with. You've probably seen reference to them in the past. But if they do not require it directly, the benefit of having these things will directly improve your scores on these maturity models, these audits. And then also from another perspective, if a dev team is doing a audit as well, having these security champions, these dedicated people who are familiar with the security policies, who are available and understanding of how security works at the organization, they will be your partners and be better off answering questions on behalf of the entire company at those audits. So there, a couple years ago, I believe it was 2017, there was a OWASP Security Champions Playbook published at one of the OWASP conferences. So I'm not going to say I'm going to reinvent the wheel here, but there are a few things that this person presented that were just kind of general steps of how to run a security, or the steps to run a Security Champions Playbook. 1 is identify teams. 2 is define the role. 3 is nominate the champions. 4 is set up the comms channels. 5 is build a knowledge base. And 6 is maintain interest. We've talked about a few of these, and we will continue to talk about them. But I just wanted to have that available, just saying that there are open source standards of how security champions programs are built. This is not a new idea. I'm not presenting any groundbreaking information, but hopefully this lived experience will provide a couple of things to learn from. So a couple of things for pre-work, things that you can get started, say, okay, I'm on board. I think security champions would be a good idea. Let's go ahead and get this started. What do I do? So some pre-work here. First is define success. I think for any large-scale project, defining success is important. But especially for this one, what is this? At the end of the day, what do you want your security champions program to look like? What benefits does it have directly for your company? 2 is get leadership buy-in. If you get to a situation where you say, hey, I want to start a security champions program, I work in security, I think it's going to be important. If you do not have this buy-in, if you do not have this agreement from engineering leadership, you're going to have a problem because they're not going to want to, spend dev cycles taking valuable time out of feature development to work on security issues. This needs to be a collaborative effort between the two departments if they are separate departments. 3, designate an organizer. I've been kind of in this role for the past year where I just kind of am the person who generally just have somebody to go to in terms of managing the Security Champions organization. There will be times where there'll be a little bit of, say grunt work for just making sure that the roster is updated, running communications, keeping things together at some point. 4 is take inventory. This can be very difficult or very easy depending on your organization. I don't know how well you maintain and know exactly what every single one of your systems and applications are. Probably not that great. But if you understand what you have, then you can better understand what kind of representation you need from a security champions perspective. 5 is define requirements. Again, you need to figure out exactly what you're going to ask from the security champions. Is this going to be a super formal program? Is this going to take up 5 hours a week? What exactly are you asking? Because you want to be clear about it. And 6 is establish budget. This is, again, not necessary. You can run the program for free, but it will always be a little easier to run a program when you do have abilities to reward people with monetary prizes. Who can be a security champion? Easy answer is anyone. Anybody can be a security champion. The point here is not that we have to have the most security-minded person in the organization. Security passion above all is important. We want somebody who has a mind for learning, has a passion for security, and as long as that is available, then that is the key type of person we want. We want volunteers or nominations before forced appointment. The last thing you want is somebody to be jammed into a role where they don't want to do it to begin with, and will only cause them dissatisfaction. Volunteers are the best because they've stepped up. Nomination is a little better because you've taken maybe a manager has decided, hey, this person would be very good for it. Maybe they didn't want to step in to begin with, but before forced appointment, try to avoid it if possible. Representation. We do want representation on the different teams. A good example would be one per business line. That's okay. That's fine. You have a couple security champions. Better would be one per product or one per application. Okay, great. Now we have the ability to say, for any application we have here at our company, we have a security champion who's responsible for it. But in my opinion, best is one per agile team. One per, say you have a large scale application and you have 10 teams developed to the various features within the application. If you have one per agile team, then you have a heart of security at every table in your organization. And you want to decide, is it going to be a one-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many relationship? You can kind of go either way, but is it going to be one champion to one application? Is it going to be one champion to many applications, or many champions for many applications? I personally take the approach that many-to-many is a good solution because it will allow anybody who wants to be a security champion to be that security champion, as opposed to saying, hey, we already have somebody on your team, or, we just don't need another right now. No, we should be able to, provide the benefits of that kind of growth. So get your security champions community involved. This isn't going to be important for the longevity of the program. If you just start a program and let it die, that's what it's going to do. It's going to die. It's not going to go anywhere. But we need to keep up the cadence of what do we need to do here. So some events would be great. I've started one called Vulnerability of the Month, where the idea is we find somebody who recently has had a vulnerability, they've remediated it. That's the important part, that they've remediated it and that we can talk about it. And we really kind of want to break down the stigma that security vulnerabilities are always bad. It's always something you should look down on if somebody has had a vulnerability in their application. No, we want to celebrate the kind of the remediation work that has gone on within a team. They've done a good job. Capture the flag. Shout out Eversec CTF upstairs. But Capture the Flag is a great way to get people involved. Gamification is going to drive education. People will enjoy doing something, especially if there's prize money behind it. But you also can do things like roundtables or tabletop exercises. Roundtables, in my opinion, are very important. It allows security champions to feel like they are a part of making the decisions within an organization and not just consuming them. So say, hey, we're going to make a transport encryption standard. This is going to be something that we're going to pass down for the entire company. If we get security champions involved with those conversations early, then they feel like they're more likely to comply with it because their voice was heard, right? We just didn't take some random thing off the NIST shelf and just shove it down engineering's throat, right? We don't want that. Tabletop exercises are great because it is a way of testing controls ahead of time. So people, when there is an incident, they know exactly what they're doing. They've done the practice before. These security champions are somebody who has sat through a tabletop exercise, and when incidents happen, it's just another day. Training is incredibly important. Now, you want to be careful and figure out if it needs to be mandatory or optional. I would say that the training itself should probably be mandatory because they need to have some sort of baseline. We need to understand that everybody's on the same page, but maybe the attendance live is optional. We try to take the approach that anything that we have for security champions needs to be available later on or doesn't take up key parts of their time. It needs to be both relevant and important. It needs to be something that it doesn't need to be a waste of time. They don't need to feel like they need to learn about some sort of, obscure SQL injection vulnerability if they are not dealing with databases at all, right? They need to have a general understanding of security, OWASP top 10 is like a great, baseline for it. But the stuff that they need to be learning, it needs to be important for their daily jobs. And input. So like I said, having their input will help security make informed decisions. You're going to save time. You're not going to start up a, you're not going to start a standard and then pull it back 3 months later because nobody can comply with it. And it helps dev not feel like they're ignored, right? They have a spot at the table. Their opinion matters just as much as any security professional does. So for communications, again, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but Slack, Teams, IRC, internal social platforms, those are all great. Obviously, we want to have one centralized location where everybody can contribute to a conversation. Consider bots, consider automation if you can. I like to have like Slack workflows where if somebody needs to know where to get the, if they need to know where to get the standards for something, they can click a button and get standards, or click a button and get training, things like that. Mailing lists and distribution groups are also important. Also probably should be automated if possible. Taking down the amount of management work on your part will be very much appreciated down the road. Meetings. This is important. Avoid becoming a burden. Do not have 1,000 meetings for your security champions, make them come to every single one of them. This is going to build resentment because developers already don't have enough time. They don't have enough time to do every single thing that they want to do. Their backlog is probably infinite. So we need to avoid becoming a burden, make everything available afterwards, record it, especially when you are working in different time zones. If you have international teams, you don't want to say, oh, I have a mandatory meeting at 9 a.m. Eastern, and then all your West Coast people have to get up at 6 a.m. That's terrible. One-on-one syncs on request. Maybe not every security champion wants to, but maybe there are some that want to have this closer relationship with security, and you should make that available to them, right? This is something that will drive them to be better security champions in the future. So rewards. We talked about budget being important, right? If you can get it. So there are some tangible rewards. Swag is great. If you can come up with some sort of brand for your security champions program and have swag available, that's awesome. People love mugs and t-shirts. Training. If you want to provide some sort of actual training when it comes to like a certification attempt or something where you say, hey, security will pay for your OSCP if you're interested in getting it. Conference attendance like this, if we had to pay, thank you BSides for being free, but if you had to pay to go see a conference, then that would be another great thing to provide as a benefit. Prizes, including CTF wins, lotteries, engagement recognition. Prizes are great for recognizing the people who really engage with the program. But just as important as tangible awards are intangible awards. These can be mentions in newsletter, communications, kudos to leadership or from leadership, opportunities to work with security and develop marketable skills, or mentorship to or from. They can become mentors for other developers. They can get mentorship from security, whatever that looks like. These things are incredibly important and will cost you nothing and will make the entire program more well received. Now, we want to talk very briefly about a controversial topic, which is as a potential hiring pipeline. The idea is security champions will make good future hires for transfers into security. You need to be careful here. There are some positives. It provides people with a structured promotion path. It gives them things to work for or work towards. It injects organizational dev knowledge into security that it would be very difficult to receive otherwise. You will hire from a pool of known trusted talent to build your security team. But there are a lot of negatives to this as well, so be careful before you make the decision. Some challenges. People may join solely as a reason to ditch the dev team. So they want to stay within the company. They just want to move into security. They may do this specifically for that. Politics can get messy if it becomes an internal poaching effort, right? You don't want to pull the best developers off of every single dev team because they have an interest in security. And defecting security would remove valuable talent from that team, right? If you decide to ponder this question, you should put some real thought behind it. There's a couple things to avoid headaches, some tips, just quickly here. Focus heavily on maintaining the perception of the initiative. We do need to be careful about making sure that this becomes something that is beneficial to the entire company and not just a time sink, right? Reward and recognize early and often. The better that we are saying, hey, this is wonderful work that this dev team is doing. They are pushing security initiatives, and they are an incredible help to the team, incredible help to the organization. That is great. maintain a cohesive roster. This is going to be slightly harder than you would expect when you start getting larger. We have slightly under 200 security champions, so when people leave and come and join different teams, it can be kind of difficult to manage. So automate it if possible, and be able to answer the question when somebody asks, who's the security champion for this application? Who's the security champion for this team? Be able to answer that question quickly. It doesn't need to take you 15 minutes to go scour through and associate people to Workday or something like that. Communicate expectations early with champions managers. If you are going to appoint somebody, if a manager is going to appoint them, that's great. But if they need to kind of be coerced into joining the security champions program, expectations should be important so they don't feel like they're being pulled two different ways. And lastly, avoid the program becoming too much of a time commitment. I understand that there are lots of benefits to this, but the more time that we force this to be is going to degrade the image a little bit. And lastly here, this idea of security champions can be more of like a framework, right? This doesn't necessarily have to only apply to security. Maybe you have something for like quality champions where they are, responsible for the improvement of testing, reliability, and efficiency within software development. Maybe you have privacy champions who are focused on legal compliance, data privacy, things like that. Maybe you have DevSecOps champions who are interested in making sure that the entire security or the entire engineering organization is moving towards CI/CD automation, scalability, things like that. There are three primary guiding principles here that kind of envelop all of these different types of champions programs, which is really ownership, engagement, and collaboration. If we take these principles and we apply them to any champions program or any formalized program that you have, it's going to really push an organization in the direction that it needs to be going. So finally, just a couple resources, a couple references here. Big shout out for the Security Champions 2.0 presentation where we got that general framework, and that has been kind of evolving over time. And Denim Group has also been doing some good work in Security Champions and what that means. They've done some really extensive research, so go check out Dan Cornell's presentation on that as well. So we are running behind. We don't have a ton of time, but maybe one or two questions. What's up? Yeah, so the question was, how do we, assign custom training for certain teams? So personally, we have we kind of take a two-pronged approach. One, we provide training from things that are relevant. So we know, hey, we've got a lot of .NET applications. We need to, make sure that we are designing training that has that includes .NET specific answers, and then also we are going through an effort of curating content that is open source stuff that's on YouTube, Udemy, whatever it is, and creating courses and saying, hey, this, if you are interested in writing secure .NET applications, these are great resources, and we've kind of tailored those to the different engineering teams that are able to say, okay, I know exactly what I need to consume to be a better security champion. Yeah, self-selecting is important. We want to always be available for people to pull rather than push security training. Maybe there are some default. Everybody needs to know OWASP top 10 stuff, but maybe the more specific training is more of a pull method. Thank you. If you have any other questions, feel free to find me. I'm wearing this obnoxiously orange shirt, and so you see me from across the room. But thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This was a wonderful time, and thank you for all the organizers as well. Thank you so much.